There are multiple ways to encounter and catch shiny Pokemon these days. Shiny Pokemon were first introduced in the Generation 2 games Gold and Silver, and since then, these different colored pixels have continued to be recognized in the other main series games, spin-offs, the TCG, the anime, and even merchandise. When you encounter a Pokemon, do you ever think to yourself, man, I could sure use me some shiny Lotad, maybe 3 of them so I could evolve the other 2 for a whole shiny line. Well, that's been me for a few years now using different methods, but what is the modern way to go about catching shiny Pokemon? One method that I really wanted to explore more of was catching them in real life. In another country. In Pokemon Go. Now, I am not going to sit here and debate the value of shiny Pokemon in Go, we'll save that for a different video, but bottom line is that I wanted to add more shinies to my Pokemon collection, and it just so happens that Pokemon Go, in my opinion,
how do you know what's good for me? That's my opinion!
has one of the most accessible and fun ways to do so. So Pokemon Go had an event called the Go City Safari, and what that is that it's basically a citywide adventure in the game that encourages you to travel around the city with your partner Pokemon and complete the in-game quests over the course of 2 days. Now, I don't know about y'all, but I personally love the idea of traveling around the world with some of my favorite Pokemon by my side. I mean, isn't that what we're basically doing in the main series games? The event was happening across the cities of Seoul and Barcelona, but those were too far for me to travel to on such short notice. So instead, I went to the City Safari in Mexico City since it was a bit closer. With my destination set, I packed my bags, grabbed my phone and Pokewalker, I mean my Pokemon Go++, and set off on my journey to catch some shiny Pokemon. Now, I've never been to Mexico, so this was pretty exciting for me. It's funny because at the time that we went, it was also the same time that Dia de los Muertos was happening, so the city was all decked out for the festivities. A new place for me meant that there was new Pokemon to be caught, like when you would reach Area 0 in Paldea and you were met with Paradox Pokemon. But we're not talking about those Pokemon. The Pokemon that we're talking about is Hawlucha, and a funny looking Eevee. I know I have a Hawlucha somewhere in my Pokemon boxes in Violet, but I don't have it in Pokemon Go. And the reason for that being is that Hawlucha is a region exclusive Pokemon and you can only find it in Mexico. Unfortunately, the shiny for Hawlucha has been released in the game yet, so we're going to focus on Eevee. Since this was a special event, that meant that there were special costume Pokemon like Eevee to be caught. Costume Pokemon are literally what they sound like. Pokemon wearing costumes. We got a taste of them with the cosplay Pikachu from Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, and now there's an entire Pokedex dedicated to these special event Pokemon. I'm personally a fan of Party Hat Wurmple because the hat is just a tad big for his tiny little head. You can't transfer them up to Pokemon Home, but they are pretty cool to have for trades and showing them off on your trainer profile. For the City Safari, Eevee has a special safari hat that you can catch, and it can be shiny. My favorite evolution of all time is Leafeon, so the thought of having a shiny Leafeon with a cute little safari hat got me pretty pumped to hunt for it. We arrive in Mexico, and the first thing I do is turn on my Go++. This thing allows me to catch Pokemon pretty much hands-free as long as I have Pokeballs in my bag. And of course, on our way to our hotel, I unknowingly caught a shiny Trapinch. It was the first shiny of the day, and I didn't even see the little guy. I love the entire Trapinch line, and Flygon is one of my favorite Pokemon. So starting off the trip with a surprise shiny was a pretty good feeling. After settling in, meeting up with friends, and catching some Pokemon, it was time to get some sleep before the event starts the following day. Before I got started with the event, I needed to take care of some battles to make progress on my level 44 quest. Once I had enough battles, it was time to get ready and head out for the day. But not before I catch my first Hawlucha. When the event started, I had 3 options to choose from to curate my experience for the day. I chose the double lucky egg duration because I love grinding for experience in the game. I tossed up all the lucky eggs I had, grabbed my Pokewalker. Oh my Arceus, that is a shiny Lotad. This thing is so freaking cute. Look at the way it walks. Now that is a good looking shiny. Not only did I catch a shiny Lotad, but I also ran into a shiny Ekans. I think I have maybe 3 of these now and can probably evolve one of them into an Arbok. During my exploration, I broke the #1 rule of Pokemon Go. Never, ever check your journal.
Oh no, no. No.
Once I got over my shiny fail, it was time to start working on the Eevee quest. I'm gonna be honest here, I was so wrapped up in finding other Pokemon that I completely forgot about the actual in-game quest that needed to be completed. I don't know about y'all, but I hate leaving tasks unfinished in my quest log. It was already halfway through the day when I realized this, but I decided to still go for it. What I basically had to do was go around the whole city and spin an Eevee Explorer Pokestop that I haven't been to yet. And every time I completed that task, I would have a chance to catch an event Eevee that was spawned. The Pokestops were spread all around the city, and we were having a bit of trouble finding those specific stops. I even asked the store's manager if they've seen any Eevee, but I don't think this guy even knew that I was talking to them. After what it seemed like it took the whole day, we had finally found enough Eevee stops and none of them were shiny. Well, there goes my dream of shiny Safari Hat Leafeon. Forget Eevee and forget Hawlucha. My boy Wooper had a community day, which means that the shiny odds are boosted through the roof. It was a glorious day to be a Wooper fan, and even more so a Clodsire fan. If you are a Wooper fan, make sure to subscribe right now to join the Wooper fan club. Both forms of Wooper were spawning that day, and I just knew it was time for me to assemble my army of Wooper. While walking around the city during Wooper Community Day, I started to notice something amphibious. There were drawings and murals of axolotl everywhere, and I got curious and looked up why axolotls were so famous here. This quote from National Geographic states, "As legend has it, the axolotl is the Aztec god of fire and lightning. Axolotl which disguised himself as a salamander to avoid being sacrificed. But these Mexican amphibians are impressive enough on their own with the ability to regenerate lost limbs and stay young throughout their lives." If you haven't connected the dots yet, Wooper is an armless axolotl. I thought it was pretty cool how Wooper Community Day landed on the last day of Dia de los Muertos, and I also made sure that my Wooper took part in the festivities. With my journey coming to an end, it was time to check the spoils of my adventure and tally up the stats. In these 72 hours I was in Mexico City, I walked roughly 19 miles, gained 1 level, hatched 108 eggs, and caught a whopping total of 1,266 Pokemon, with 209 of them being Wooper and 29 shiny Pokemon, with 15 of them being shiny Wooper. These may seem like baby stats compared to some of the more seasoned Pokemon Go players and hunters, but overall, I'm pretty satisfied with my haul of Pokemon. I wish I could have stayed longer, but it was time for me to say goodbye. And as I was flying home, I started to reflect on my journey. I got to see quite a bit of Mexico City, learned a little bit about the culture, explored new places with my friends, and caught a ton of Pokemon. It honestly felt like a real-life Pokemon adventure. Though I think I caught maybe too many Pokemon because I'm starting to run out of storage space. That is a future me problem. Some of the shinies I caught were able to be transferred up to Scarlet and Violet, and of course the first thing I do is have them run around in synchro mode. But let's be honest here, the real modern way of catching shiny Pokemon is by making sandwiches. If you made it to the end of this video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the Wooper fan club. I really enjoy this method of shiny hunting because it allows me to experience Pokemon in a different way. With that being said, what method do you like to use to shiny hunt? Let me know down in the comments, and thank you for watching.